Welcome to a brand new episode of Common Filth Radio. Thank you very, very much for listening. Common Filth Extra, episode 17, is available on Bandcamp right now for $1, only $1. And on this episode of Common Filth Extra, I read what I did not read on the original r/ABDL video I uploaded last Thursday. Deleted scenes that I read and I analyze, and I give my commentary on them, and it's good stuff. Lots of terrifying insight, disturbing insight. So what is it? What's it gonna be? It's not like the world changes a whole lot from one week to the next. It hasn't changed a whole lot in the however many years I've been doing this now. But I do have this story here. I do have this story that I'm going to read to you. Mirror.co.uk, written by, same website, no author, no specific author. Headline: Mother says sex with her son is incredible as she reveals they're planning marriage and trying for baby. Ben Ford, who ditched his wife when he met his mother Kim West after 30 years, claims what the couple are doing isn't incest. A mother reunited with the son. Wait, what? There's another one here. Kim West, 51, and her son Ben Ford have spoken to the New Day about their relationship, which I guess is another publication. Mother and son desperate to have a baby, ... together. Now she put him up for adoption. Now 32 years on, they are lovers. A mother reunited with the son she gave up for adoption 30 years ago says now they're in love and trying for a baby together. Guess the race. Kim West, 51, has been in a relationship with her biological son Ben Ford, 32, for 2 years and believe they are meant to be, after she was forced to give him up for adoption just a week after he was born. But the couple, who said their sex life is incredible and are planning to get married, insist their relationship is not incest, the New Day reports. Instead, they claim it is genetic sexual attraction, a term used for relatives who feel sexual attraction for each other after meeting as adults. That is... Do I even need to say anything about that? Is there anything I could say to drive home the point of how horrible this is? The couple were brought together after Ben, who was living in the U.S., sent his England-born mom a letter out of the blue in 2013. 2 years later, before Ben had married his wife Victoria, who he later split up to be within a relationship with his mom now. We as people, as a race, our marriages are temporary. We have children we don't want. Families we don't want. Children we don't raise. Love is a secret, hidden bullshit word for depraved, satanic lust. But the world is backwards, which is why you cannot place your faith in worldly things. And those who engage in worldly things, well, they will lose their life. What else? I'm in love with my son and I want to have his baby. Can you imagine that? A 51-year-old woman giving birth. And not only that, an autistic genetic bottleneck. 51 years old having children with your son. Like, as long as they're white, right? I'm going to talk about that some more. Kim gave up Ben for adoption when he's just a week old, and they're only reunited 30 years later. Daughter meets father for the first time after tracking him down, but is then raped by him. What in the world? There's another one. Wife of man marrying his mother called her mummy girlfriend. She's my mummy girlfriend. She's like my mummy girlfriend and nanny. Please spank my bottom. I just clicked on this one. Wife of man marrying his mother. Okay, it's the same guy. He called her mummy girlfriend before discovering they were... Oh, God. Okay, so it's the same story, basically. The pair began exchanging phone calls before agreeing to meet up, Kim saying it was like they had known each other for years. Interior designer Kim started to realize her attraction to her son and found herself having sexy dreams about him. Reprobate. Now, the Mirror is really just a time capsule of This is why you can't place your faith in man. You know, a lot of people like to make fun of, I don't know, certain pundits for believing in magical dirt, that America somehow has magical dirt. But the same people doing that, they believe in magical blood. And this blood is likely the same as yours, or at least very, very similar. If you put it under a microscope, do the sequencing, hey, look, you guys have a pretty close common relative. This blood, the same as your blood. Is there anything magical about it? White girls are magic. Like these ones. I married my mom's best pal in same-sex wedding, and then things got really complicated. And how they categorize this story in the Mirror, they categorize this as news, real-life stories, love. There's that word again. Does anybody know what it means? No, of course not. You know, people who have their mind and spirit, and not just their body, they know what love is. They know what love is, but it's interesting. When I talk about my faith, people reserve their greatest hatred towards me when I talk about my faith. They say things like, oh, you worship a dead cuck on a stick. Oh, he's a zombie cuck, blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting, the word they use there, zombie. And it's usually white guys who are like convinced of their own holiness telling me this or saying this about me. And the reason why I find the whole zombie thing interesting is because we're in like, what, year 12 or 13 with our culture's present fascination with everything zombie. The Walking Dead, the most popular TV show, cable TV show. How many zombie movies have we had since 2003? And why do we like zombies so much? Why are so many people into this? Why do so many idiots have their zombie apocalypse plans? Because they themselves are zombies. Their body is there. Their bodies exist to consume and come. But their mind and spirit are gone. That's why people identify so much with this shit. So it's interesting that they accuse Jesus of being a zombie despite the fact that they belong to a zombie race. And this is what you're looking at here. People who call marrying your mom's best pal in a same-sex wedding, that's love. Those are the words of somebody who not only has their body but their mind and spirit intact? No. Those are the words of a zombie. That is a categorization of a zombie. And I've been saying this on Twitter often lately. Zombie race. Zombie race. Zombie race. Examples of it. Like these girls from Finland, they look like they're between ages 9 to 12. 9 to 12 years old, and they're posing in like these real intimate ways with these swarthy looking, migrant looking guys. Now, if the body had its mind and spirit, would the parents of these children let these migrants anywhere near their children? They don't give a shit because they're gone. That person you thought was so great, they're not there anymore. That's not them. They're a cum and glutton-hungry piece of shit. That is who they are. They're no longer a person. Those are zombies. And how many of our racial kin fit this description? Be honest with yourself. If you say like, oh, the majority of us aren't like that, you are horribly mistaken and you don't leave your house ever. I do. I go do normal people things all the time. And I have my eye open. I see what people are doing. They're dead. They're walking around with no life behind their eyes. They post on Facebook about gay rights all the time. Still having that same look. That same look where there are the eyes, they still exist, but there's nothing behind it. There's no spirit. They're dead inside. I see this all the time, everywhere. And they will not be revived by the efforts of any man. They will not be revived through any political movement. They will not experience a revival at the hands of any man. So if we're talking about zombies, we have to talk about zombies in their correct context. How many years of zombie movies and zombie TV shows have we had to suffer through? I mean, for those of us that aren't into that stuff, we've had to suffer through it. Zombie movie after zombie movie, zombie TV show after zombie TV show, and who's consuming it? The zombies, the real zombies. Because what do you describe somebody who has sex with their mom? I would describe them as a zombie. How do you describe somebody as getting gay married to, how do you describe somebody who gets gay married to their mom's best pal and then things get really get complicated? How do you describe somebody who offers their child's prepubescent pussy up to a migrant? Who lets that happen? I don't know, that's some zombie behavior to me, but no, continue talking your shit, please. This Mirror website is something else. Transgender dad's amazing wife and kids who say their family has never been happier. Zombies. Love. Gran and grandson. Brother and sister. Father and daughter. The weird world of genetic sexual attraction. Zombies. Obese woman earns 1,000 pounds a month by farting, squashing men, and gorging herself on camera. Zombies. These are not people. These are people who exist only for one thing. To satisfy their animal bullshit fucking urges. Now I know why people are so enamored with zombie fiction. They identify with it. What else do we have? Man has half his penis amputated just before his wedding night, but still has sex. Well, that's real important. I mean, that's in the cancer category, yeah. Well, at least you could, it's like cancer, oh man, but at least you could still fuck. Oh, come, dude, yeah. The secret addiction to the prescription drug Valium that killed my husband at age 32. Zombies. You know what we need right now? We need a music break. So that's what we're going to do. Be back in a minute. Alright, let's do some emails. Let's do that, and then we'll do Reddit comments and questions. So this one says, Dear CF, I've been an avid follower of your channel, mostly because what you say really resonates with how I feel deep down, because laughing at the nonsensical stuff that's been made normal, quote-unquote normal, eases my soul, even if only a little. Anyhow, I used to go to church every Sunday with my family. Over time, my family broke apart. One of my parents was stabbed to death. I'm very sorry to hear that. And the other has been in and out of the hospital for almost 10 years. And I stopped attending. It's been hard for me to place my faith in a higher power that allowed things so close and precious to be taken away. You talk a lot about not having faith in man, and as you and your listeners see every week, there are many reasons not to. The only person in my life I really have is faith in myself. Well, you alone is fallible. You alone is as fallible as man is. I've talked about the dangers of autotheism earlier on in this show. I've discussed the dangers of that many, many times. You start believing your soul is beyond reproach, that anything you do is good, and you have to have a standard. Alright, bad things happen to people. Alright, I get it. But it's just not a mature outlook to say bad things happen, therefore, I'm my own God. What should I do if a family member is seemingly beyond redemption? I know all teenagers go through edgy phases, but this issue is leaking over into early adulthood. Well, growing up happens later now than it ever has. Ever. I've got a sibling who is vegan, gay, and also wants to go to art school. It makes seeing eye to eye almost impossible. I don't want them to end up sucking dick for money to pay for a worthless degree. Sorry to be such a downer, but it's just something that has been on my mind. Look, you can warn them all you want, but if they want to go down that path so desperately that look, I'm not a genetic determinist. I am a spiritual determinist, however. Like that some people exist only to serve as a negative example to others. Look, this is what'll happen if you do this, this, and that. This is what'll happen if you suck dick and go to art school. Let it happen. I know it pains you, but you have to understand that, loving your neighbor as you love yourself, it goes both ways. This person doesn't love themselves. It's all reciprocal. I've said it time and time and time again. I've said it on so many episodes. Not recently, but in the past, and it's this. What I've said is this. You cannot express loyalty to that which is not loyal to you. These are rules for everyone, not just a couple of people, not just you. This is what people don't understand. It's like they read something that Jesus said and didn't look at the context of it. Like, oh, he who is without sin casts the first stone. That means don't kill people for their sins. And after that, he said, women, go sin no more. Sin no more. He didn't say, oh, you can keep doing it. Don't worry. You'll be fine. He said, no, quit doing that. This is what people don't understand. The rules apply to you as well as your neighbor. It applies to everyone. And if somebody isn't playing by those rules, you send them off. You say, nope, I'm not becoming a victim to your nonsense. Wrong is wrong no matter the color of the skin, the sequencing of the genetics. Wrong is wrong is wrong is wrong. Sin is sin, if it's your family or if it's not. And you cannot be loyal to that which it defines itself by its psychosis. So I'm sorry to say this, but there's nothing you can do and there's nothing you should do, and you shouldn't feel bad about it. They know what's wrong. They know the potential issues somebody might have with the path they're taking, but they do it anyway. And I hope this serves as a lesson to you with regard to how the limits of family. That if they're not worthy of your loyalty, then that's that. You can't drag yourself down with it. You can't allow yourself to be burdened by their nonsense because you came out of the same womb. Family is only meaningful if that family does the right thing. If that family's righteous. And sorry to say, your sibling is not. Your sibling is more loyal to fucking whatever this shit is. I'm gonna make queer vegan menstrual art? You need to go to college to do that? Hey CF, I just stumbled upon a disturbing YouTube video. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I highly suggest you watch it. And this subject is why the world isn't going to get better. Yeah, sure. What's the title? Child Prodigy's Life-Altering Update. Oh, somebody told me about this. Now they're like some genius IQ person, and he decided, oh, I'm trans or whatever. I got an email about this either last week or the week before. It was on a recent episode, but yeah, so-and-so appeared. Oh, another British story. In 1991, 13-year-old child prodigy, then known as James Charles Harries, appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show as Britain's youngest tycoon. James started an entrepreneurial career at age 4, collecting items from blah, blah, blah. Britain. Yeah, that's a great place. Great place. Wonderful place full of wonderful people. Next. So I looked up the transphobia article one day out of sheer curiosity. And the article was littered with the dictionary of pause lingo, with words such as cisgender, cissexism, etc. What are your thoughts on Wikipedia? What are your thoughts on all these made-up words to push the LGBT agenda? Well, let me use this as an opportunity to explain how they satisfy their power process, which is something that every human has a desire to have some degree of power, some degree of control over something. Now, for normal heterosexual people, they get married. They have their spouse that they build a life with. They have children, and there you go. That's the bedrock. I mean, look, family's far from a guarantee, but that is what society is based upon, the family. Now, how homosexuals propagate their memes, how they satisfy their power process is through politics, through political manipulation, because they can't bear fruit of their own. The only fruit that they can attain is through parasitic means. Therefore, they get into politics quite often. This is why these fringe movements like the alt-right and whatever you want to talk about, they're littered with these kinds of people. And why? I mean, is it any coincidence that these people take such an interest in Europe when European countries have a very low age of consent? I mean, it's not uniform, but it's pretty damn low. And nobody's bothered by that. I don't understand. It's like, no, is anybody capable of using their imagination? Like, gee, what is their motivation exactly? Let me tell you, their motivations aren't anything good because they have no investment in the future. They have investment in anal bleach. That's what they have investment in. But the LGBT community, they satisfy their power process through social, cultural, and political manipulation. Which is why they create all these buzzwords and ridicule those who, that you're a cis sexist, cisgender, blah blah blah, and that's bad, and that means you're ignorant. And you need to listen to us. You need to listen to us. You need to listen to us. They're really good, and that's why they make up these buzzwords to infect the minds of middle Americans, middle of the road people. Now, you can blame them, but it's what's in the heart of a person that ruins them. I mean, if people didn't want it, they wouldn't sell it, and they wouldn't have a place to take hold. This is what people need to understand. It's you. It's you. We all want somebody to blame. We all want somebody to blame that isn't ourselves, but you know what? We're to blame. More often than not. We're above the 50.1% threshold of blame. Next. As I have told you before, I work in a max security prison. I often work in the isolation, segregation, the whole portion of the prison. The other day, as I was walking by doing my duties, one of the inmates screamed out an emergency, mind you, not for his cell, but for the cell next to him. You see, the person in the cell next to him, a high escape risk, was a white male and he was a black male. This high escape risk decided to do something that I only thought was a joke and something I would hear on your show. He shoved his standard issue inmate pen into his dick and to aid for masturbation. Oh God. When I asked the inmate why he helped out the guy next to him, even though it was something straight up degenerate, he said it was the Christian thing to do. He was in prison for, I am pretty sure, robbery or homicide, is that it? I don't know. But I would have to check, food for thought. No, the Christian thing would be, don't, sin no more. It's insane. It's the Christian thing to do to engage in worldly, demonic Satan lust. That's horrifying. Feel free to read this on your show, IlluminatiNews.com. This is something I read a long time ago in X/X/. And I know X is mostly bullcrap, and given my faith in God, this is also bullcrap. But I want you to see how far demons have brought the world. Okay, sure. IlluminatiNews.com. Let's read it. Dialogue with the Hidden Hand, self-proclaimed Illuminati insider from December 27th, 2008. The self-proclaimed Illuminati insider appeared on the above top-secret forum in October 2008, giving away information about the Illuminati agenda and their goals. The reason for this is, he says, because time is right for us to know what some of what is going on behind the scenes. And he explains why he needs to reveal it now. It's very convincing. In this article, I will post the dialogue between the above's top secret forum members and Hidden Hand in its entirety. Well, this is really long. Yeah, this is really long. If you're going to send me something this long, please show me the highlights of it. Please, it'll help everyone involved, including me. Basically, it's a guy okay, you already did that. Basically, it's a guy claiming to be a messenger from celestial beings and claims that the Illuminati theories are partly true. But this guy isn't like the others. He goes into huge detail if you actually read through it all. And it affected me strongly when my faith was weaker. This is the dedication of demons to destroying the case of Christ. Yeah, well, I get a lot of hatred for talking about the New Testament. No, because of how heavily reading the story affected me when I was younger and my faith was weaker, I recommend not linking this on your show because of how long it is. It wouldn't fit your regular YouTube episodes, but if you want to do it for a one-off thing, you might be able to make it work. Yeah, I'll bookmark it, sure. And, yeah, like I said, a demon hates being called by its correct name. And, I seem to attract a lot of demonic attention, unfortunately. So we'll go to the next one. Hi, CF. I'll keep this nice and short. Recently, while talking with my mother on the topic of abortion, she told me she had an abortion before me. Well, I'm very, very sorry to hear that you were born of a woman who did that. My parents were unmarried at the time and decided to kill my potential brother/sister over facing the consequences of sex before marriage. Well, why don't you just fucking get married then? And say, oh, by the way, I'm pregnant, haha. Finding it hard to forgive them because it hurt badly. What do you think I should do? Forgive, but don't forget. That's what I say. And am I allowed to read this one? You don't have to read this on air if you don't want to. I just wanted to thank you. Sorry about the length. No, this is fine. I don't know what I'm gonna have to like copy and paste like the perfect length into a word processor and figure out how you know the not how the amount of words, the word count, how long it is exactly to tell everybody this is about the ideal length. It'll help actually. Thank you for fighting the truly good fight. You may remember my emails from a little ways back talking about Romans, Thessalonians, and the posters. Recently, I have realized that the people around me aren't who they seem to be. The people I had become friends with were no more than utter trash, talking about how trannies are people too, and it doesn't hurt anyone. If I'd never hear that again in my life, it would be too soon. It doesn't hurt him, but it doesn't affect you. Everything affects everything, idiot. But I manned up and moved away from these degenerates. I've tried to talk to some about becoming faithful to God, but they just hissed when I told them about the Bible, of course. Normally, I don't like to talk about myself, but I feel now is a good time to tell you how everything is going. I recently began to work out and train to become a volunteer firefighter. That's good. I've also begun eating healthier and not being a dumbass about everything, including sticking up for my faith even more so. More importantly, I wish you the best of luck with Commonwealth Radio as always, and thank you for helping me see the light of Christ once again, even when you have shown me the darkest hell that which man occupies. Thank you very much for sending the email. I'm glad that things are looking up for you, and somebody said this, I don't remember who, but it's important to see who a man keeps his company. You could tell a lot about a man by the company he keeps, but you can also tell a lot about a man by the enemies he has. And I think, sorry about that. I think we should pay attention to that more, and that's why I cover what I cover rather than just being like, "Hey, this is awesome, isn't this nice?" No, it seems to be that we live in an age where people pay more attention to the negativity, and they can find the light on their own by somebody showing them the darkness. So. That's why I don't typically do more lighthearted content, because I don't think it's as effective. Next. Hey CF, been wanting to send in this question for a while. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted a son. But for the last few months or so, I've been really questioning the reasoning behind having kids in these days. It'll be in the near future, next 10 years or so, that I'd decide to go forward with starting my family. But I am truly terrified of what my child, my blood, and life could be turned into. I'm brought back to the poem you read in an episode that I can't remember the number of, How I Lost My Life to the Left. Yeah, I remember that poem as well. And it was not written by me. It was written by a, I'll search my email for it to, one of these days, to find out who wrote that. Because, yeah, it was, a lot of people told me that they were really affected by that. And, yeah, we should revisit it at some point. Because not everybody who was there here back then we have a lot of new listeners since then. So, I was almost brought to tears by this poem. It is truly scary thinking my future child/children could and probably will be turned against me by teachers, friends, and coworkers, convinced that trans zoophiles are normal and that ass babies are cool and acceptable. My question is, with the current outlook of the near future, is bringing children into this horrid, subhuman, and degenerate society a good idea? I can't think of anything worse than what happens in that poem. Thanks for reading and cheers ahead for any advice you can offer. God bless. P.S. Here's an article to ruin your day further. Mother who filmed herself raping her 1-year-old son receives shocking sentence. Oh boy, I don't know. That might be a little too dark for now at least. I'll look at that later, but it's not surprising. It's, people like to bitch about how unfairly women are treated. Yeah, they are treated unfairly. Can you imagine if a dude did that? You would get the entire book thrown at him, and justifiably good. But no, she's a woman, therefore something must have happened to her. She's a victim. I had some idiot telling me that I shouldn't judge because I'm dealing with people who are victimized. Who gives a fuck? Oh, boo-hoo, some bullshit happened to you. Some bullshit happens to everybody. There's what happens to you and how you deal with it. And you don't deal with it by turning other people into victims, you fuck. As for how you go about defending your family from worldly influences, I don't know. I haven't raised a family myself. It would be difficult for me to say, but having a plan going into becoming a father, having a family, having a plan is better than not having a plan, which is what nobody does. They do stuff and then it's like, oh shit, I'm pregnant, or oh shit, I got a girl pregnant. I guess I better do this now. They don't plan step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. In case of this, that. If this, then that. Nobody thinks like that. They just do. They're idiots. But as it says in Matthew 7, I pulled up the King James Version here. It's King James 7, verse 17. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth a good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. 18. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. So if your plan is good, if your plan for raising your children is good, if your plan for raising your children will make them strong, then you have to take comfort in the fact that you're doing the best you can. And that's as far as my advice goes, unfortunately, but best of luck to you in the future, and thank you for the email. Next. Hey CF, I've been listening to your material since episode 69, and I've wanted to thank you for giving me some guidance into getting back with God, since he seems to be the only refuge for these times of filth. And I felt heaps better, although it's been on and off. Yeah, same here. Same for all of us. I really appreciate you leading people into the correct path by exposing harsh truth. Going to my question, I've had the opportunity to go to a couple of parties, something that I haven't really been exposed to for years, and that I've always felt some pretty hard conflict about, which I believe it's not my moral upbringing, but something or someone that speaks to me internally, telling me the fact that people chain smoking 12 cancer sticks in a row and mixing every sort of liquor into a plastic container, something called jungle juice, until they black out and vomiting on the floor is not something that is right. And I still can't understand the reasons why people enjoy this. How can this be socially normal? Self-destructive behaviors have always been socially normal. I think back in the 70s, they thought cocaine was no more or less destructive for you than cigarettes were. You know, I might have something about that detail wrong, but yeah, I mean, they used to put cocaine in Coca-Cola before that? It's insane. I'm 20 and I've been in an existential crisis for about 4 years, reading pretentious French literature on existentialism, looking out for something that gives meaning to my life and inner peace when I live with people I'm just not compatible with. I've been reading about Taoism, which is basically letting go of garbage that gives you mental turmoil, and accept the fact that everything just is, promoting and cultivating peace of mind, being authentic to your inner humanity, non-degenerate and non-hedonistic, of course, and helping others achieve the same. This is secular, but it can as well be integrated with Christianity. To be clear, I just wanted to know your opinion on why and how people can behave like brain-dead fucklords without feeling regret. It's because they're soulless. They're not they're not real people. I mean, they might look like people and act like people, but they're not. And I know that might sound strange that these are just meat bags with no motivation, no nothing. They just do. They're like people that have sex and have kids and go, oh shit, and not realizing what they have done. Not realizing the profound thing that they've done. Same kind of people. Your opinion about this philosophy working with Christianity, and how did you personally find meaning in a world full of garbage? I'm glad there's a lot of people out there that can thankfully change their ways. Well, look, this isn't it, and for some people they think it is. This life is the most important, but it's usually the people that think that this is the most important, and have lots of fun and have the most pleasure. Yeah, that's the most important thing. Yet those are the people that meet the most destructive ends. I mean, look at a guy like Charlie Sheen. You don't get HIV by sitting at home reading books, you know? I'm back home now from the said party, smelling cigarette smoke from human chimneys and being ashamed of a friend puking nonstop on a toilet. I felt instantly better being here, just like I do in university when studying or reading. Once again, thank you, CF, for being a voice of reason that can lead people into a straight path. And remember to take a break every now and then for your own health. Note, I also want to remember the audience in general that CF isn't a messiah, but someone who can point out what's bullshit and where you should go. Cult-like following isn't sane and won't get you the right idea of his work if you engage in it. Best wishes, stay sane, and thanks for all the guidance you've given me in these last 3 months. Well, thank you very much for listening. And I can't remember if I read this, because I had read this email prior to recording, so maybe I read this last week, I'm not sure, but I read it again because it was really good, and it needed to be done, so thank you very much. Shit people say to non-binary folks. Trigger warning, degenerates. It's another YouTube video. Look, there's nothing these people are going to say that's going to surprise me. I actually got 2 consecutive emails with the same thing. Oh, it's from the same person. Never mind. Well, thank you for the emails, but yeah, I might check those out later if I remember to, but not while I'm recording. Women feminizing men. Let's do this one. I was wondering why do you think women like to emasculate and feminize men? For example, multiple times throughout my life and at all ages, I've had multiple girls ask if they could put makeup on me or do something girly with my hair. Well, because men are physically manipulative, and women, how they satisfy their power process in their sick kind of way, in their sinful kind of way, is through social manipulation. All right, that's disgusting, and we shouldn't encourage that. I also saw those same girls ask other guys after I told them no. I remember even my sister asking me to put makeup on me when I was like 6, and another time with her friend when I was maybe 14. And I would like to thank that dog, wherever it is, neighbor dog, for breaking my train of thought there. That was a very important bark. I'm sure you had very important things to say. I like dogs, but they bark for very strange reasons. I don't know, and you're not the first person to experience this. I want to say that it's a bizarre egalitarian impulse that they feel towards those at their mercy, where they're like, oh, if you're a man, I'm going to take you down a peg. I'm a woman. You know, maybe it's like a penis envy thing. I don't know how real penis envy is, but nowadays with all the weird hormones, all the weird food we put in our bodies disrupting and rearranging our hormones, maybe it is a thing. Maybe there are legions of young ladies out there who want penises. They can't do it, so instead of having a penis themselves, which they can't do, they want to take the penis of others away. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, but yeah, it's sick. Women, that mom morality, share your toys. No one's better than anybody else. Next, you may or may not have seen this, and if you have, that's fine. You can skip it. It's about some girl from New York who has a son who wants to transition from a male to female. This woman totally isn't pressuring. Yeah, every time this woman does it, this woman totally isn't pressuring him into this. Every time it's some single mom or it's some dad who might as well not even be a man. And the Supreme Court of New York is blocking them from doing so. Note the language in the petition, how manipulative and just flat-out psychopathic it seems to be. Isn't it funny how the more secular society gets, the worse it gets? It's weird how that works out, huh? It leaves you vulnerable to all sorts of things. I don't, I mean, I know that you're like, oh God, being held to a standard, oh no. I know a lot of people out there are like that, but secularism isn't working out too well. It leads women to have children that our culture has something in its vernacular like single motherhood. And people think that's fine. That's normal in American culture. And the church has never been less influential than it has been now. And look what we're producing, free of its influence. Okay. I'm curious to hear what your take is on physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia. I think the legislation in areas where these practices are allowed are a good example of how it doesn't affect you proves a faulty maxim and how humans are extreme creatures. I've done research on and off on this topic for a couple of years, and I'm going to include some articles for you to look through, with some quotes for the audience you can read if you want, that I think especially illustrate what is dangerous here. I've cut them for brevity's sake, but I tried to keep important bits. If you haven't read much on the topic, I strongly urge you to read all of Ezekiel J. Emanuel's 1997 Atlantic article, Whose Right to Die? I know you don't like walls of text, but I think you will find this informative and it might start a discussion. As you read, remember that physician-assisted suicide of physician aid and death, as supporters call it, is already legal in 5 states in the U.S. Well, I discussed this. I'll look through your links in a minute, but I talked about a Dutch woman who killed herself because she had tinnitus. She had tinnitus, which is a ringing in the ear, and she's like, "Oh, it's so horrible. I have tinnitus myself. I've had hearing damage in my past, and if it gets too much for me, and it usually doesn't, I put on some I think it's called pink noise, and it completely disappears because the frequencies in that pink noise are filled. There's a match between the frequencies in there and some of the frequencies of my tinnitus, and it's done. It's over. I'm fine." And this woman killed herself because she has what I have. I have some personal experience with it. And this is the problem. You give people this option, they're going to take it. And they don't care what kind of damage it does. Look at all the prescription drugs we take that are causing all of these mass killings, these school shootings. They're all on antidepressants because these things we're taking that we think are so great, they're making us feel nothing. They're making us dead inside. And that explains a lot of behavior. Antidepressants are so prevalent because it's advertised as an easy way out, and everybody wants to take the path of least resistance. They don't want to address the underlying issues of what's causing them pain, what's causing them sadness. They don't want that. If there's something easier, they'll take that, and they don't give a fuck what the effects of it are. And it does affect you. It does affect you. It affects you time and time and time and time and time and time again. Always. Next. Hi, I'm becoming a seminarian for the Catholic Church. You recently said in your latest video that the Catholic culture is toxic. However, you said you wanted unity. Isn't it a little ironic that you say you follow the Bible as well? However, at the same time, disregard the authority of the Church, who compiled the Bible. Is it not that Scripture alone created these churches in which so hideously create these LGBT banners and whatnot? You want unity, there is unity, but not without authority. Also, there is a reason why the church is in constant struggle. There's a battle between us, the few, the traditionalists, and those of modern, current-year conformism. More here if you like. Well, look, I'm not anti-Catholic, but what I'm telling you is ground-level gut feeling of what Catholics are and what Catholics are doing, what the common Catholic is doing, how they view God, and how they're being turned away from God. I think that the Catholic Church has grown to such a size that people can't see around the monolith that it is to see the cross. Because yes, whatever bullshit the church indulges in the current year, The priority is still Christ, but a lot of people, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, to use that cliche, for lack of a better term. And we got more regarding the Pope, Catholic Church, what have you. In regards to Pope Francis, as a Catholic and many other Catholics I know, do not care for the man. It seems Pope Francis is more interested in signaling to the left-leaning and generally non-religious crowds, which tells you that he's more concerned with being right with the world than being right with God. And that is in direct contradiction to Scripture. I knew it was bad when a friend of mine invited me into a Skype call with another friend of his who happened to be trans. You know where this is going, yeah. Naturally, when they weren't going on in every other sentence about, 'cause I'm trans, chanting like a mantra, as if we magically forget it. The subject of the Pope was brought up. This was around the time Francis had made this "Who am I to judge" quip. Well, God said, or Jesus said, "I came to this world not to judge it, but to save it. But those who reject me, they will receive my judgment." So if the Pope were actually serious about the Word of God, he would say, "It is for me to judge because I am a man of God." Long story short, this degenerate tranny was applauding the Pope for actually acting like a true Christian. Yeah, I love it when people who have no interest in holding themselves to a higher standard tell people how to be true this, true that. Get fucked. And how he was a step in the right direction. I ask you as a brother in Christ, who is this mentally damaged person to tell me what makes a good Christian when they themselves live in sin? Yeah, they aren't. And what they call a true Christian, you should take note of that and behave in the direct opposite. I mean, they're wrong in the words they use, but you could use it as an example of how not to be. What they view as a lie is actually the truth. I hold these are trying times, and I'm constantly reminded that I must keep my faith in spite of all things. I put my faith in God, not Francis. Anyway, sorry for the long read. I love your work, and will be keeping you in my prayers. Likewise, thank you very much for the email. Yeah. And like I said, the Catholic Church is this monolith, and everybody can point to the Pope and say, yeah, the Pope, that's the guy, and they lose sight of what's truly important, especially when this guy is just so completely wrong on so many levels. Time for Reddit questions, r/common-filth. If you want to join the conversation, have a dialogue. Who said it? Was it Jim Goad? I forget who said that. Whenever a liberal says, "Oh, let's have a dialogue," they mean listen to my monologue. I think it was him. I could be wrong about that. Hey CF, I know I've been writing in quite a little bit lately, but demons are determined to affront me on a regular basis these days. My missus signed us up for the draw for seats in the audience of the show Q&A. Not sure what the American equivalent is, but it's exactly like the British show Question Time. If you've ever seen clips of Peter Hitchens staunching cunts with holy truths, then you've seen clips of the show. The format is a panel of left to center left circle jerkers, picking on a conservative, usually political figure for an hour while the audience of baying idiot students guffaws in gratitude that their shitty worldviews are being acknowledged by important people. That is beautifully articulate. Way to go. While I think of it, what do you think of Peter Hitchens? I enjoy watching him ruin progressives in debate, and his perspective on things is bang on the money. His blog is pretty good too. Check it out if you haven't. Yeah, a lot of people have recommended him to me. So I untwist my headphones here. Why is this doing this? Hold on one second. I have to unplug my headphones. And now for the first time in history, I'm recording something without actually listening to myself at the same time through the headphones. Alright. And here we go. We're back. Where did I leave off? Anyway, me and the missus were in the audience for the latest episode of Q&A. Our government is bitching about how much it costs them to maintain so much student debt and how such a growing such a growing proportion of these debts will never be repaid because, surprise, surprise, people who major in gender studies and indigenous basket weaving will never earn high enough to hit the threshold that triggers their student debt to be repaid. I was planning on asking our former education minister why they're pushing more and more people to go to university in the first place to study such frivolities? Well, it's an elaborate form of welfare. It's like a work for welfare program. Or welfare work for welfare, or welfare for work, however you want to arrange it. It's basically that, because these are people who really shouldn't have a high earning position in society yet. Well, you went to school, so you're important, therefore you need it. It's ridiculous, because we don't have a need for, not everybody can be a professor. In fact, very few people should be professors. I realized, however, that I didn't want to accidentally become a meme and ruin my life, so I kept my head down and observed carefully how the general public really reacts to sorts of questions on this show. Probably a good idea. We were lucky enough to be sitting because, I'll read that in a second, because you're playing into their frame. You're meeting on their terms, not yours. This is why I do this show, because everything is on my terms. And those who are on the same page as me, well, I get along with them, and I can ridicule those who are not, those who are hostile towards me, and, that's how it should be. Use your own platform, because then you will have your own frame to conduct yourself within. We were unlucky enough to be sitting behind two of the most foul women I've encountered lately. Dyed hair, coated in whore paint, snarky, smug country expressions. Truly, I was sitting behind a couple of Australia's top bloggers. They were constantly clapping retarded notions like increased education budgets, increasing being good, and more money in schools means better. No, you're just creating an industry of apathy, of people who are there just to get the easy job. It's like unions. We have unions in America, and everybody slacks off in school. I'm going to get a $30 an hour union job that's responsible for factories offshoring to Southeast Asia. Yeah, great job, guys. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Thanks for giving unions a reason to exist. Thanks for ruining our manufacturing base. No, really, thanks. They're constant. Okay, I already read that part. Being good, making smug, smarky laughing sounds to dismiss anything that the faux conservative on stage said. The show had a hype man to get us all excited beforehand, and he made a rather poorly planned joke about being on the spectrum. This triggered the bloggers. Was it about autism? That's pretty funny, actually. The look on their faces as they turned around was priceless. These people really can't fathom the idea that they can be offended, and there's nothing they can do to stop it, that they can be offended. I said can? Yes, I did. Shut up, dog. That's not mine, by the way. Though the joke was probably in rather poor taste, considering disability was a topic of discussion for the night, and there were a few spastics in the audience. I was thoroughly disgusted to see how much people applaud such shitty ideas and worthless platitudes when presented with them. Well, because they are of the world, and the world is always wrong. But I think what soured me the most was what one of the panel members shortly followed after by an entire room full of latte-sipping whores and cucks did to a young man who dared to ask a rather poignant question. Well, God bless him for his bravery. He stood up and asked the panel if they thought that, paraphrasing, with the push towards gay marriage and accepting all things gay, does the panel see a time in the near future where people would be ridiculed or discriminated against for holding the view that traditional marriage is the right way for society to go? He then outed himself as a Christian. This question was leapt on by a panel member who happened to be a British female, of course, terrorist comedian, who asked him why he was even bothering to start a discussion like that. She then mocked his view on traditional marriage by pretending that biblical marriage was one man and 100 underage girls or something similarly retarded. She continued to mock this young man for his question. Well, isn't polyamory a great thing? So why is she so mad about that? Isn't that a good thing? One man, hundreds of girls? No, it should be the other way around, right? If it were the other way around, she'd be all for it. Love is love. It's polyamory, so it's all good. So why is she ridiculing it? Right, because she doesn't actually fucking believe in anything. She believes in her cunt. That's what she believes. She believes in stuffing shit into her vagina. That's her worldview. And anything that enables that, that's what she hitches her wagon to. She continued to mock this young man. For this question, the entire room of some 400 people burst into laughter as he stood there and took his mob justice. The fag hags sitting in front of us were laughing extremely hard. Surely this vile young bigot had just been told so hard that he would never recover. But he did recover. He stood back up and said into the microphone, "You didn't answer my question." And it's true. They didn't answer his question about whether holding conservative views on marriage would lead to someone being bullied and ridiculed. Of course they didn't answer his question. They were too busy bullying and ridiculing him. Well, I guess he did have his question answered in a very, embarrassing way, but good on him for maintaining his composure. You can't worry about these people, to be honest with you, their conduct, because they will never save themselves. They will never reach out and fix what's wrong with them. What we should be worried about is the influence they have over those who might be swayed one way or the other, those who are neutral. That's why we should take concern with how these people conduct themselves, because them in and of themselves are worthless, and when you treat them like that. This led the panel to have a 20-minute circle jerk about fag marriage and how it's important because it gives them access to adoption. And how is that important? Again, they're not bearing any fruit of their own. They're stealing fruit from others. That's what it is. They're picking it from other trees and turning that fruit to rotting fruit. And that fruit hadn't had the time to grow. As well as that artificial aristocrat breeding programs. Yeah, it's sick. People don't understand that we're born to a mother and a father for a reason, so that we know how to interact with both sexes, both man and woman, both adult man and adult woman. Nobody gets it. And people think that knowing how men and women interact can be replaced with the internet and computers and all this stuff and education. People don't understand. School it takes place outside of reality. The classroom is a very artificially constructed inorganic thing. It's not like you're dealing with people how they usually behave themselves. It is an environment where people aren't really acting like how they really are. And in the home, this is why the concept of home is so important, because at home, that's where people are comfortable to behave how they truly are. And the home having a mother and father in their ambient state, being able to observe, experience, and interact with that man and woman, the feminine and masculine, the masculine and feminine in their ambient state, that teaches you everything you need to know about life. Life when it comes to interacting with the sexes, and you cannot get around that. There's also plenty of the obligatory 2 consenting adults, and it doesn't affect you fucking disgusting. Yes, look, I'm not saying this stuff for no reason, and I know you know that, but a lot of people, they think this doesn't have any effect on anything. The majority of people don't believe this, that I'm just making some stuff up. It's not true. I'm simply reacting to what I see. It's not like I'm creating this stuff out of thin air. Though some of you might think that I invented the white girls fuck dog things. It's been coming for quite some time. It's just becoming obvious. You know, the signs were there. It doesn't take a magician to read them. I couldn't believe it, man. A room full of disgusting progressives mocking and deriding the view of a conservative young man for worrying that he would be made a criminal for failing to worship the sodomite. Well, he will be. And you hear the dog. Look, I know a lot of you people think I'm crazy when the trains go by, but you could definitely hear that dog. Woof, woof. Woof, woof. Yeah, right on cue. Thanks, dog. And it's a good thing I don't care much for the company of other people, because it looks like everyone around here is well and truly fucked. Yeah, and that's okay, as long as you aren't. Take it easy, man. I don't think I'll sleep for days. Wish me luck. NyQuil. Try that. And I have two similar questions here right in a row. Did you see Ramsey Paul's new video concerning white nationalism? If so, what are your thoughts? Which leads into the next one. I saw Ramsey Paul's video regarding white nationalism. I think you were way ahead of the curve when you understood that the sort of cultish vibe they have about them. If it's not Hitler idolatry, it's skin color idolatry. Yeah, it's another form of autotheism. They view themselves as the holiest creatures on the planet. And you can point to examples why this is not the case, and they'll freak out about it. Them putting these things above all else makes them susceptible to all sorts of corruption of the soul and intellect, especially by putting faith in the impermanent. I understand why this sort of attractive ideology can put an unpleasant aftertaste of politics in one's mouth, but can you truly avoid politics? I don't know, maybe we can't, but I'll continue reading. What would you say of the notion that because we follow Christ, we are necessarily monarchists, but because his kingdom is not of this earth, it is not really concerned about material things, but is more of a social kingship? Before the establishment of the United States, men have always called upon the religious authority to give legitimacy to temporal rulers. In the Christian context, all power and glory belongs to God, and so a monarch's authority and legitimacy in the eyes of a God-fearing people comes from God and not the will to power. Now, I'm aware that I keep throwing YouTube links to various talks, and I do so because I think there should be a library of resources that we can all refer to that generally agree with each other in resisting what the world now forces upon our children. In my case, I recommend the YouTube channel Sensus Fidelium. It has various talks from people who have actually have experience in activism and legal affairs. I'm afraid it's not as exciting as observing degenerates of all kinds, but it provides good, substantial tools for anyone who wants to fight back. Well, thank you for providing that. Yeah, most white nationalists are autotheists, and it's strange because they celebrate the very inventions that made possible the world they lament. In other words, globalization. White people were the best at colonizing, best at having sex with all these 4 feet tall pygmy women, creating racial discord in these colonies when they left, creating all this doubt, introducing all these inventions that we're now suffering the consequences of. There's an input and there's an output. The input is colonization, the output is globalization. So white nationalism to me has a very, hardcore white nationalist, not like, hey, let's stop immigration, we don't have a nation without borders. No, nothing practical like that, but no, real hardcore white nationalists that view their race as the holiest, as beyond reproach. It's contradictory, it is schizophrenic. And it's schizophrenic for another reason, that, and it's this. They say, oh, Western civilization, that's the best, West this, West that, not realizing the context that made it possible, which is Christianity. They'll talk about dead kikes on a stick and zombie cuck and all this other nonsense that it doesn't apply, and I discussed it earlier, I don't need to do it again. And this is not to mention the outright cultural relativism that white nationalists and the alt-right engage in. They think, oh, a white person does it, well, it's okay. Yet if a crazed jungle savage engages in it, for example, let's say sodomy, those backwards niggers, this, that, and the other thing, all these horrible things they say, yet they'll excuse it when one of their own does it. Like, for example, that one guy that writes for Breitbart, I forget his name. Would he be as popular if he didn't suck dick? There are a lot of people that do what he does. Yet legions of white kids view him as an example, complete with his fucking shitty pictures of him holding guns in the wilderness and with his shitty trigger discipline. Yeah, you do that a lot. You aren't cosplaying, you fucking retard. That's all his type are concerned with, image. That's why they're so involved in the fashion industry. They are husks, so they want to make their husk look nice and pretty. And that's it. That's why you can't take these people seriously. Wrong is wrong no matter who does it. And quit making excuses for wrong. Quit making excuses for lies. Quit making excuses. Next. Hey, see, if I was the guy who asked you about anthropology last episode, hey, I learned that term in anthropology class, cultural relativism, and it turns out that people I thought that I had something in common with are engaging in that anthropology 101 bullshit. They're like the live, laugh, love girls. Great. I learned so much in college. Your response was discouraging, but I don't know what else I expected. Oh, I'm sorry about that. It seems anthropology is truly cucked beyond the point of no return. I'm about to make that a banned word. Look, cuckolding is sexual treachery. It no longer means anything without how frequently people have used that word, it is just a noise at this point. You mentioned a long time ago that in order to fix schools, there was no other option than to burn them to the ground, and I agree. Well, not literally. It's just disincentivize scholarship, shall we say. It should only be like one person making any money at a university. That's what I think. Like one person in each department. The rest are working minimum wage. How about that? That'll be a good way to gut it, to burn it to the ground figuratively. My question is, when we rebuild the schools, how do we rebuild them free from the influence of movements like Boasian anthropology and the teachings of the Frankfurt School? You get rid of the humanities. Yeah, that's what you got to do. Is such a thing even possible? And if not, what do you think are the largest barriers to freedom from leftist influence? It is possible, but you have to get rid of the humanities. Apologies if this is too broad a question. I just want to know some of your thoughts. Take it easy. Well, the broader the question, the more simple the answer it will be, I find. But yeah, that's what you have to do. Get rid of the humanities, get rid of the humanities, get rid of the humanities. That's it. Next. Dear CF, I enjoy your podcast's content, but I find you often just resort to "my God" as a response to everything. Well, if there was no God, then this all be just meaningless. Everything would be meaningless. We on our own cannot stand. As a lifelong agnostic, I simply cannot get behind using God as a club to beat degenerates with. I'm not beating anybody with anything. I'm informing. I'm providing new perspective. Excuse me. I respect the Bible as a book that gave people moral guidance in a time before we could use science to properly explain why X action leads to Y end result. Look, if it was not for the church, the scientific method would not exist. Why do people keep saying this? What? Oh, magnets. How do they work? Well, these how they work. Therefore, God, or therefore morality. It's stupid. And this kind of spreadsheet thinking leads people to be like, well, that's not me, not all, and therefore that's right. It's unbelievable. It's like you could look at like England, 85% white or whatever it is. Look at what those white people are doing. The percentage points don't tell you how people are behaving themselves. Even if that fucking mom and son, mommy girlfriend, even if they don't bear fruit, rotten mutated fruit, they're still doing wrong. Fucking, it's just, you can't go into this beep boop 1010 percentage point spreadsheet kind of thinking. Because you by doing that, you are removing the essence of humanity. Anyway, it kept people on the straight and narrow, which is fan-fucking-tastic and why I embrace a lot of the moral code the Bible preaches while being a filthy heathen myself. It's just your lack of variety beyond mug God makes it difficult to sit through an entire episode of God bothering of what would otherwise be a most excellent show. I have a plenty, my show has plenty of variety. As I take more water here. My show has plenty of variety. But look, all roads have to lead to one place, right? That's why you hear it. And the reason why you hear God so much is because it's amplified, because you know what you're lacking. Therefore, you are exposed to your deficiency, and your deficiency is being held to an objective, constant standard. That's your deficiency, which is why you hear it. You hear the word God louder than you hear any other word I say. If you were wanting to help save some degenerates, I suspect you would be better suited explaining why fucking a dog while Tyrone and Jamil jizz on your face will lead to bad life consequences. Again, if you just look at the numbers, it won't. It won't. You have to address these things from a spiritual perspective, because you're talking about a spiritual act, whether it is of a good spirit or a bad spirit or an absent spirit. All right? Look, everybody thinks just come is come and love is love, but look, there's a very big difference between getting gangbanged with a dog present There's a big difference between orgasming to that and creating babies within the confines of holy matrimony. Big fucking difference that a spreadsheet would not account for. People like myself who simply cannot have blind faith in the Almighty. Who the fuck is saying anything about blindness? We're talking about seeing. Are going to dig their feet in and go, fuck off with your sky wizard. Again, it's because they're being exposed to their deficiency, their very obvious deficiency. People don't like being confronted with their shitty life decisions. And the only one who can confront it is those who are of God. Anybody else is just like, what do you know? Instead of considering that your message makes a lot of sense on a logical level and not just a faith level. I fail to see how these things are separate. I mean, if we're talking logical, if we're using logical and truth as synonymous. We hold very similar opinions on everything but faith, and I got here through the path of logic and a slow trickle of data. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh or anything. All right, I'm sure we do have a lot of similar opinions on things, but look, you have to realize that there's a deficiency in 1-0 logical spreadsheet, purely logical, purely reasonable, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 0. There's a deficiency in this thinking. All right, and where that'll lead to is like these white nationalist types who excuse sodomy within their ranks because white people do it. I've seen this sentiment expressed firsthand by people you think would know better, but they don't. They're fucking clueless. Look, data can tell us some things, all right? And it can tell us some very valuable things. It can give us unique perspective. But let's use IQ for an example. Everybody likes to talk about how much smarter white people are. Yet they seem to be the most morally retarded people on the planet. I mean, the Chinese are pretty bad too, but, it's like, look, a lot of them, they blame Christianity for Western civilization's woes, which is stupid because the church in its present state, there are secular wings of the governments that they occupy in Europe. The governments that own them in Europe, rather. They're basically like an institutional version of, I'm spiritual but not religious. Like your not your daughter, like your sister that just got home. She's on winter break from her first semester at college. This is what the church in Europe is. Not Russia, mind you. But in Western and Northern Europe, this is what it is. The Church of Sweden, nobody actually believes in God. They just get baptized because it's a cultural thing. They pay tribute to the world, not to God. And I'll use this as an example. Look at the Amish. Are the Amish importing the worst third world trash? Are Africans importing the worst Euro niggers to replace them, to replace the native population? The answer is no. Because these people realize that this world is not all there is. And ironically, they leave behind a much better world than those who value the world. You all need to read the book of John in the Bible. You all really do, because it's said in there, I don't have it in front of me, I'm not very good at memorizing exact scripture, but the sentiment is this: those who love their worldly life, they're going to lose it. And this is precisely what is happening to Europe. But those who realize that there's something better, in other words, those who hate their life here on earth, they'll have eternal life. So the sincerely devout among us, like the Amish, the Africans, those who are of the Christian faith in Africa, they're leaving behind a better world for their people than if they were preoccupied with worldly things. And this is the folly of Europe. Western and Northern Europeans are so enamored with their worldly things that they are losing it in the most violent way you could possibly imagine. Whereas the church in Eastern Europe, it's growing. And God wills it. I hope we see a holy Russian Empire in our lifetime. Or a holy Serbian Empire in our lifetime. After all, I do make videos for Serbian people. Those of you who follow me on Twitter. If you tone down every response being mud god, you could gain more allies on the path of redeeming society through the path of the fedora. Haha, very funny. If you must resort to mud god for every single thing, make it an educational mud god. Look, I think people need to seek things on their own rather than, have somebody tell it to them, because that's how a lot of rebellion happens. That's why a lot of people tell me like they have a problem with the church in the South because of how, I guess, suffocating it is. And the more suffocating they are, the more I think they miss the point. Like how, oh, Jesus didn't drink wine. That's one I heard. It's like, why does it matter? Is that what the Bible is about? Wine consumption? Some people's priorities, if they miss the point, and I don't know why they miss the point. I really don't. You could teach people about the Bible by referencing events, not just the moral command. What is a moral command, not an event? For example, Muhammad stuck his dick in a... I don't even want... No, this is... Dude, calm down. I'm going to read this, just so everybody knows what I'm reacting to here. Muhammad stuck his dick in a dog and got hit with a lightning bolt made of Jew lampshades and dragon dildos. How is this going to convince anybody? Don't fuck dogs unless you want God to pause your face hole with a dragon dildo complete with a Jewish lampshade attachment. Haha, these are all funny, very funny memes. Look, there are other shows that are probably more up your alley if that's what you want out of me. Just memes without any real content or principle, alright? I'm sure there's a lot of other things out there, but look, I get it. You're probably not being serious, but I am. I just told you why I do what I do. And how limited this, oh, look, this number says this on this spreadsheet. Therefore, it only takes you so far. Next, go to here. Hey, CF, here's some lovely news to trigger you. Mom smoked meth while men gang raped daughter. North America, in Utah. 4 Utah men are accused of raping a 9-year-old girl on Easter Sunday, while her mom allegedly smoked methamphetamine with a fellow ex-con nearby. That's not even funny. That's just... But, it doesn't affect you, right? Nothing affects anybody. Next. I don't demand, but I suggest you read this on your show because this has to do with something you've been saying over and over again for the past 10 to 20 episodes. I think it'll be longer than that if you really look into it. Like I said, that white people are possessed with demons. Back in episode 48, I believe it was. It's almost half the show ago. Why is it? Stop buzzing. Okay, anyway. I think it was episode 73 or maybe 74 when you claimed that this degeneracy seems to arise mostly in English and Germanic-speaking countries. I seemed to dismiss this at first, but now a couple months later, I really got around to thinking about it. English is a vague language. Compared to German, it is fairly shallow and direct. More abstract, actually, but even so, German itself is vague and shallow. This is compared to Slavic, Romance, Hellenic languages, as well as Ugro-Finnic. Let me elaborate. In Slavic languages, as well as the families mentioned above, we have genders which are assigned to words. In Serbian, for example, chair has a female gender. See, I told you I make videos for Serbian people. This is fantastic. Chair has a female gender, a table has male gender, a car has male gender. I'm not into linguistics, so I can't explain why this is, but the same goes for German. Words have gender. So why is it that Germans are still degenerate? Because the gender in Slavic languages is injected into the word itself, while German adds an addendum to signify the gender. For example, a Serb doesn't need to put taj, that means male, in front of auto to know that it is indeed male gender. A German needs to put das, that's gender neutral, in front of auto to know that the gender is neutral. So again, words on itself are more precise in non-Germanic speaking languages. This might explain why like the Midwest in the US, they're so averse to just straight shooters, which is, probably why they don't like Donald Trump very much. And I have a whole lot to say on that, but I think I've ragged enough on the contradictory nature of what Eurocentrics have been saying. So again, words on itself are more precise in non-Germanic speaking languages. This is not only with words, but grammar in general. What would take you 2 or maybe 3 sentences to describe in English would take you 1 or less in Serbian. Next to future tense 1, we also have a second future tense, and next to those 2, we have 3 more advanced future tenses. This allows for a very precise description, not only future tenses, but past and present as well. Where in English, something happens in the future, in Serbians, it happens in the future, and judging by the information of the word, you will know exactly when. So I'd like to call for any linguistics who may be reading or listening to this to fix where I was wrong. Other than that, I wish I could put a theory to the test. Could the vagueness of the Celto-Germanic languages be one of, if not the main factor, in the widespread enabling of degeneracies? Yes, because people talk how they think, and how we think is completely debased. And I'm speaking these words. You could probably find things that are weird in my language, in my speech, and I'm not aware of it. It may be considering gender-queer people vaguely describe their gender because they are allowed to, whereas in Serbian, vagueness would be seen as a lack of intelligence / knowledge and be shamed, as it should be. Thank you in advance. Great comment. Yeah, like I said, people talk how they think. And how people talk, how language is structured also informs how people think. It goes both ways. They feed into each other. I don't know what feeds into what more at a greater percentage, but we know it's a part of a whole. It's a part of a whole system of nonsense, a whole linguistic system of nonsense. But I think you described why there is a future for Eastern Europeans, to be honest with you. You think very specifically, you have a clear definition of man and woman, whereas we don't. Westerners don't, and that is a huge part of our downfall. So thank you very much for the comment. Hi, Common Filth. Regarding some of your comments on episode 16, do you think that European man is over and his extinction is inevitable? Keep up the good work. Everybody's extinction is inevitable. You've had the Shemite people. Their time came. Their time is now gone. And the other biblical tribes, Hamites, they're the last in line. Which I don't understand why blacks want to claim that they were kings. You don't want to be first. You want to be last. Because everybody has their time, and everybody has their time to go. And we're currently seeing it in another group of people, I think. Whether you're measuring it on a spiritual level or you're measuring it on a genetic level, man changes. And maybe once a European man's genetic composition gets shaken up a bit, then he will realize, wait a minute, we need to unfuck ourselves and stop loving the world so much. And we have just a bit more common filth. Our Father who art in heaven, drinking smoothie out of her ass and pussy. Good Lord, Black Twitter is that's something. I could have gone the rest of my life. It doesn't show anything that explicit, but this is what it does. Does anybody understand the nature of addiction? The nature of, it's like, oh, I won't do it. Oh, I'll quit, but only after this. Oh, I'll quit, but I'll still have some on the weekends. It's an excuse after an excuse after an excuse, and you see this with every dysfunction, including sexually, a sexual dysfunction, sexual addiction. You see this in drug addiction. It only this and it's only that. You see this same sort of mentality in the "it doesn't affect you" crowd, consenting adults crowd. It could cause people paper cuts, and they would say, well, it's just a paper cut. Their dysfunction could give people bruises, and they'd say, well, it's just a bruise, it'll clear up in a few days. It could break your bone, and they'll say, well, at least you aren't dead. Their dysfunctions could do all of this stuff to you, and they say, well, at least. Well, this, well, that. They'll keep making excuses for it, which is why you must attack the fundament of of their behavior, of their addiction. Because humans are extreme creatures. Are they taking the good to the extreme, or are they taking the bad to the extreme? It's like you're right. We are extreme creatures. I've talked about this before. listener of mine left a comment saying that. We should all internalize that and realize it. Hey CF, this has been a big question on my mind after reading more into U.S. history. At first, I thought the U.S. was obviously not a Christian nation being founded by Enlightenment thinkers, but as I read more into U.S. history and how a lot of the revolution was against bankers of the tribe, and the first colonists being Puritans, I am wondering, is America a Christian nation? Yes and no. I understand the concerns of a state-established religion, especially what state religions have become now. Like I said, they're institutionalized versions of your sister, freshman in college, I'm spiritual but not religious. That's what state religions are. All right, so the founding fathers had some good foresight when it came to that. But on the other hand, because of that, you'd say, well, no, it's not. Even though there were no other religions being practiced here virtually at the time. I mean, you might have had the Indians doing what they were doing, but obviously they don't fit into this context because they're different people. So it's yes and no at the same time, because a lot of the founding fathers they were of some questionable faith, questionable in the origins of their faith. So I don't know. I don't have too much of a strong opinion about it. I think that you should influence the culture, and you should influence the culture at a ground level rather than through the state. Because if it's put to word, legislation put to word, this is what the religion is, that triggers a sense of resistance, which is why the most sophisticated forms of control are ones that aren't put into legislation. This is the problem with viewing everything through politics, viewing everything through the political lens, because corporations wield far more influence over the culture than the government does. And nobody realizes this, because the corporations, they did it all legally and free market this, therefore it's all allowed. No. Corporations are cultural poison and they need to be held in check. And you could do this through the state, but it's not going to happen, because who fucking owns the state? Who owns the legislators? All right, maybe Trump will do some good things, but really, what's going to happen? Is the rot suddenly going to become undone? Will the mold evaporate? Highly, highly unlikely. Because who influences the culture the most? Corporations at this point in time. People on social media. States have got very little to do with the solution to our problems. Next, back in episode 52, you disparaged gender is a social construct. I wish to differ. In my honest opinion, it's totally a social construct. The word was used interchangeably with sex, if at all, until 1955 rather. The current usage comes from the same hippy-dippy feminist 1960s and 70s academia as most of the other cultural degeneracies you highlight. People have chromosome pairs and genitalia in two common forms except for genetic mutations. That makes them one of two sexes, end dot. The identity or assignment memes describe mental illness, just like those who think they're Jesus or Napoleon. Sufferers of these disorders shouldn't qualify for special handling beyond a comfortable space in a sanitarium until they can function normally. What they certainly are not entitled to is treatment as a protected class as shown in the current PayPal/North Carolina Hissy Fit, over a bill that says if you're a man, you can't use the women's restroom. Well, that's their Alamo. That shows you what they prioritize. Fucking retards. And I agree, we should be spending a lot more money on mental hospitals. Every bit of social justice bullshit we spend money on, gay rights in Africa, anything else, anything you can think of. It fails to come to mind right now because I'm tired, but yeah, we should be spending more money on mental hospitals because we have a country full of mental patients. We need to get them off the streets and someplace where they can have a little bit of dignity. And the rest of us will be better off for it because it'll be safer. Who's the other mod of the subreddit? We have two other mods now, actually. They're normal people. I don't know them personally, I just know them through the internet, but they're good people and they do a good job. You should call a Swede on your show. Sweden has become the first country in the world to get a phone number. It connects to random Swedes, so you too can talk to their vibrant and diverse community of cucks and Ahmeds. If you are from one of the following countries, you can call Sweden to a cost of a local call. Note to check your international phone rates before calling so you can avoid being... I'm not going to read that word on your phone bill. Would be pretty fun. Maybe later. But that's a neat idea, actually. But I might actually get some people in trouble for it. Might put some people in jail for talking to somebody who promotes hate crimes. Hate speech. Next. Let's see if it's the weed dude guy from a month or so ago. How do you feel about high school? I know you aren't a fan of academia in general, but I want to know if that extends to high schooling. High schooling. In my experience, I've been learning the same thing since 7th grade, and everybody around me is going, "Durr, I don't get it." If I learn about the causes of World War II one more time, I might throw myself out of a window. Yeah, high school, it's... I don't understand the point of it, to be honest with you. We could create capable engineers, capable electricians by age 16. There's no reason why we can't. High school is just another elaborate welfare program for people that want to avoid real work. And look, I get it. There's value in calculus teachers. There's value in chemistry teachers. I understand all this because these are building block subjects that lead to a lot of the conveniences we enjoy in modern society. I get it. People who are able to teach this to kids, they're valuable. But humanities teachers in high school, at a certain point, you don't need it unless you want to go to school for it. Unless you want to go to college for it, which, okay, fine. We need a lot less people going to school for history and humanities. But what the hell does a 9th grader need to know about history? They don't know anything. History makes a lot more sense when you understand how people behave. And a 14-year-old knows nothing of human nature and behavior. So really, if you're that passionate about the subject, save it for college, when you've actually lived some life. No, don't save it for college. Study it on your own. We need less humanities, please. But I kind of got off track there. How do you feel about it? And I saw the r/ABDL video. I had to pause multiple times to go outside or just do something else for a few minutes because this shit's just bad. Inject Botox into your peel. Yeah, that was disturbing. But yeah, high school's a big waste of time. I don't understand why we need 4 years of it. Should be teaching kids skills like, hey, you want to be an engineer, you want to be a programmer, you want to be a chemist. Here, we have these resources available for you. We'll teach you how. We'll teach you the basics. You go on to college or further training. Again, 16-year-olds, they could be trained to do stuff. And the only reason why we don't is because there's so much money to be made from point A to point B in between those 2 points. And as we increase the length between those 2 points, the more middlemen there are, the more money that can be made off of doing nothing other than obstructing and being less productive. Sorry if this is too long. You don't have to read it. First time posting, I fell off the wagon yesterday and I did everything that is wrong with me. I overate and gave in to sexual urges. During it, I plan to hop back onto the wagon the next day, which I have, and I plan to get as far as I can. My question is, how do I repent or tell God I'm sorry? Well, you say, you take that guilt you feel from the input is the sin, right? Input is sin, guilt is the output. Take that guilt and say, I feel this way for a reason. This is how I feel. I need to hold on to this, and I need to say, here, God, look, I feel guilty. I'm sorry. Take it away. Take it away. Because once you do that, once that happens, you'll stop doing it as frequently. I mean, maybe you'll keep doing it with less frequency, but each time you do that, you take that guilt and you say, this is God speaking to me. I'm going to hold on to that, and that's how you repent. That visceral disgust you feel after you do something wrong, hold on to that. And keep doing it every time that happens. And it'll happen less and less and less and less. I'm very inexperienced with Christianity because I grew up in an agnostic family and have never been exposed to faith. I say the Lord's Prayer every night and morning because it seems to cover all bases. Where can I get a Bible? I've heard that you can get them for free at a church or in hotel rooms. BibleGateway.com. Bible Hub, I think, is another one. It's on the internet for free. And they have every version you could possibly imagine. I understand that, King James might be a little, the language might be a little bit strange and foreign to some people. The English is not how we speak now, but that is the recommended one. And English Standard Version isn't so bad. If there are some things you don't understand in King James Version, you can cross-reference it. So yeah, online, look, there are lots of Bibles on the internet for free. So go with that. Next. CF, how well off would a colony be that consisted only of your subscribers? I don't know. I don't think that the thousands of people I have would be enough. It'd be a pretty tough squeeze, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, it would be cool to, I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be, but it's more fun to think about than it is to actually put it into practice. But I don't know. I don't think it would work out so well. There's not enough of us, Sorry if I'm asking too many questions at once, but have you seen the YouTube channel Murdoch? I think you would really enjoy their content. Yeah, I'm familiar with a little bit. Some amusing stuff on there. Hi CF, regarding acephobia on YouTube, thought you might like to read this comment of yourself left on this thread. Asexual Visibility and Education Network. Acephobia on YouTube. And I'm in this thread. Why do they care? How many, wait, this is a form. We're going to figure out how many posts the asexual form has. This will be good. It has, 3.6 million total posts, 81,472 members. That's crazy. Where are they talking about me? Okay, I found it. I think I found it. With the stuff I watch on YouTube, this is child's play. Troll or not, he's Bush League. The one I've been following lately has been Common Filth Radio. He himself is like an Aaron Clary on steroids. I don't have any personal qualms against Aaron Clary, but he's far too homophile for me. So why would you call me him on steroids? That's stupid. I think he may have mentioned asexuals once or twice, but it wasn't very positive, I don't think. But boy, does he go off on trans people. I know I shouldn't listen to it since it gets into my head, but it's like a car wreck. You just can't look away. Honestly, don't think it's worth reporting these people or even advisable. It probably just strengthens their resolve. Why would you want to take again? It's like if you don't like what somebody is saying, don't listen to them. And look at all these weird people, these weird sexualities. They view themselves as the holiest thing and that they should never be criticized. They can't stand on their own. That's why. That's why they're after, we have to report them. We have to tell on them. Yeah, sadly, that's really the only thing you can do at this point. Okay, whatever. Just get bent. It's so stupid. What are people saying about us? I don't know. You have a forum full of how many people? 80,000+, was it? An asexual person is a person who does not experience sexual attraction. You have 81,400+ of you. Stay in your own little bubble. There are plenty of you. There are far more of you than there are of my followers. So leave. Go. Bye. And this is back in September. And this is why. There's another forum, it's like a video game forum where they called me literally Hitler. He's into that alt-right white supremacist thing. Is that what you heard from me, or is that something you heard from somebody else who, again, go right to the source and make your own fucking interpretation of it. And if you're making that interpretation of it, good lord, your lens is so distorted. Man. There are a lot of people that willfully misunderstand you, huh? I don't get it. If you don't like somebody, just go away. Just say, I don't like them, they rub me the wrong way, that's fine, I can deal with that. But no. You have to hear it from somebody and believe what you want to believe because it makes you feel good for some reason. This guy is this. That makes me feel... How? And it's not the truth, but if a lie makes you feel better, who are you? What does that say about your soul? If lies make you feel better than the truth? I don't know. I usually feel pretty comfortable with the truth. If it is what it is, that's fine with me. But apparently, not for asexuals. I don't get it. If you feel no sexual attraction, you have no passion. Therefore, if you have no passion, then why are you so passionately against me doing what I do? I don't get it. If you are a passionless person, it shows that you aren't. You do have some passions, and your passion is directed towards a guy talking into a microphone for a handful of people. Good job, asexual form. Some great priorities you have. If somebody is that concerned with what people think of them and their retarded identity, what they have based their life upon is garbage. It's not built on rock, it is built on quicksand. And they know it. They just don't want people to tell them. Hey, your house is sinking. Shut up. Don't tell me that. Again, they'd rather tell themselves a lie than save their lives with the truth. So, that does it for Common Filth Radio, episode 84. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for sticking by. It means a lot to me, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed Common Filth Extra, episode 17. So until then, take care of yourselves, be good to each other. Talk to you later.
I've grown, ain't I? The skinny nigga with the fro to the slightly bigger nigga who's a killer with the flow. Went from YouTube beats and SoundCloud, nigga. The only difference now is that I found Twitter. Fuck it, it's struggle rap, man. They never see the trouble that I'm going through. The way I sing, they think I live in bubble wrap. Fuck all that, even though I'm on some poppin' shit. With my niggas as my witness, I'm a nigga who can spit. Don't believe me? Overlooking my potential, I'm that poet to a phone, that poet was to a pencil. My mental is similar to that of a lion, and I'm the king of